everyone, I'm Sahand, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a melodic house track in the style of Anjunadeep and Anjunabeats. So let's get straight into the project file. I started off the project looking for a sample that sparked my inspiration, and after going through the sample library I came up with this piano sound over here. From this piano sample, I created two different pads using this Holy Pads rack that I'll show you right now. It's a pretty cool rack that I added to my website as well, so feel free to check that out. From that rack, I created these two pads. One, which is mono. Took out some of the lows over here, boosted some of the highs. And as the name implies, I monoed it over here using Ableton's utility plugin. I created a duplicate from this layer, which is called stereo pad. And I wanted this sample to come from the sides, which is why it's called stereo. Cool thing about this is that it fills the entire spectrum of the melodic pad element. So you have a mono element that comes from the middle and a stereo element that comes from the sides, which both go very well with the main melodic sample. Without the pads, it sounded a bit more dull. I really also like how it fills the high end of the frequency spectrum. Since the piano doesn't have a lot of high frequencies, I added them back using these pads. So the melodic elements, the piano, and both pads ended up sounding like this. I already liked the way the track was starting to sound. So from this point on, I added my own voice, which sounds like this. With the pads, it sounds like this. I like how deep it sounds, but just to show you how my voice sounded before the processing, I'm going to change the pitch back to 0 and remove all of the effects over here. Feel inside my soul. Yeah. Yeah. This was how it sounded before. Completely different pitch. Then I pitched it down, added some processing. Just gonna check if it's on the right. Yeah, exactly. It's on the right pitch now. So for the processing on the vocals, I removed some of the low end frequencies. Feel inside my soul. Feel inside. Some of the low frequencies, some of that low mud, which is around 250 hertz over here. I just added some gain using utility, some reverb using this Ableton stock reverb plugin, and some delay over here. Feel inside my soul. Very simple processing, goes well with the rest of the melodic elements that we have over here. Feel inside my soul. The next melodic element is going to be the lead, which I created using Ableton's Wavetable stock effects plugin, or stock VST plugin. That's how it sounds. The reason I like this sound so much is because it adds so much energy to the track and really fits to the whole epicness of the track. For the air flute synth, I honestly just grabbed Ableton's Wavetable for this. You can search in the instruments panel and head into a lead, synth lead. Without any processing, the sound sounds like this. I shortened the decay of the sound because otherwise it would sound too wide. So it sounds too harsh with a long decay, which is why I reduced it to about 180 milliseconds for the main part. But as you can see here, I did some automation of the decay to add or remove energy. So low decay, low energy, high decay, higher tension, higher energy. That's a basic rule, but it really depends on the track and the part of your track. So we have our air flute lead here. Remove the lows, remove the sub frequencies that we do not need in the sample. Added some delay. Ping pong for this, added some reverb as well. And I also removed some harsh frequencies that were really disturbing the mix. And you can hear the lead sound is playing the root note of the track, which is A sharp. So that's the note we always get back to. That's the root note of our pads over here. Every note that you hear is within this scale of A sharp minor. Just as a side note, every track that I have in Ableton is going into a separate channel, which is dedicated to the sidechaining of the track. So let me show you that. Every single track that I created here is going into a separate sidechain track. What this means is that whenever the kick hits or the sidechain trigger hits, all the other elements of the track will be reduced in volume. So this is pretty typical for genres like techno or house because it enables the kick to have more space in the mix and not clash with other elements like the bass. So you can imagine all tracks beside the kick are going into this channel, and whatever is going into this channel is being reduced in volume by whatever is triggering it, which is the kick in this case. So this is the kick. And this is the muted sidechain trigger channel. It's exactly the same, but I just wanted to have more control whenever the sidechain hits. That's why I use this sidechain trigger channel. You can also see that I'm using a lot of automation for the sidechain because I wanted to have full control of the sidechain of the track. From then on, I added some drums. For the drums, I started with the main kick. I used the sample that I previously created and I often use in my own tracks. And in combination with the melodies, it sounds like this. You can hear the sidechain really working. In addition to the main kick, I created another offbeat kick that really goes well to assist the rhythm of the track. I'm going to show you how I created this offbeat kick. It's really simple. Create a new audio track. The audio is coming from the main kick. Gonna hit the record arm button and hit record. So we have our kick here. We're gonna put it on our offbeat sections. Just like that. Then we're going to remove some of the high frequencies, add a low boost perhaps. In combination with our main kick, it sounds like this. Then you can adjust the frequency over here. I'm going to delete this track again. This is how the offbeat kick sounds in this track. Cool. So we have a pretty stable groove. After that, I added some hi-hats, which sound like this. I really like using short hi-hat sounds. Before, it sounded like this. Reduce, decay, and sustain from the sampler, and it sounds much more snappy. For the processing, I just added some reverb. Might as well just take out the low frequencies here. You can see I did some automation for the hat in the build. Which is a pretty cool trick to create some tension. Let's move on to the claps. The claps sound like this. The clap consists of 3 different layers. Clap 1 is a room clap. Clap 2 is our transient clap. Clap 3 is our hand clap, which sounds like this. So you have 3 different claps playing simultaneously. And the room clap being an emphasis clap, which is just being played on every second clap beat. So let's hear how it sounds with the offbeat kick and the hi-hat. Cool. Since I didn't want every clap to be played at the same time, I used this delay panel over here, which you can blend in over here using this small symbol over here at the bottom. And I just dragged the millisecond panel here to my liking so that it sounds more groovy, more offbeat. It already sounds pretty cool, but I wanted to fill some empty space within the drums, which is why I added some more top loops like this one. A lot of people don't really like using loops, but I find them to be a really nice way to add to what you already created, and they really do save you a lot of time in the creative process. For this top loop, I just removed some of the high frequencies over here because I didn't want the hi-hat to be this dominant, since I already had another hi-hat over here. And I added some reverb, just a bit of reverb to give it some room, some space. Without effects, it sounds like this. With effects, it sounds like this. I then added another groove loop, which sounds like this. But I added some erosion to emphasize some of those high frequencies. Without erosion, it sounds like this. With erosion, pretty cool. I like it. For the second part of the drop, I added some more elements, such as these shakers over here, and an open hi-hat to add more energy to the second part of the drop. Our drums in total sound like this. All right, cool. So we have our melodic elements. We also have our drums ready. And now what I'd like to do from here on is add a bass line, which sounds like this. With the melodies, it sounds like this. In total, it's a pretty solid sound, and I created it using this basic organ bass, which you can find under the wavetable presets. So you just have to head into instruments, type in basic organ bass, and you can find it over here under wavetable. It's a pretty cool sound, and it's part of the Ableton stock wavetable library. So our main melody is in A sharp minor. Our bass line is also in, as you can see, in A sharp minor. I'm going to zoom in a bit. There we go, A sharp minor. Playing very simple groove. Just added some octave jumps every now and then to add some more variety to the bass line. For the processing, I just added a bit of that low frequency range at around 40 Hertz. Added some delay to fill in the space between every single bass note over here. So without delay, it sounds like this. With delay, it sounds like this. It's not doing a lot, doing very little, but I like what it's doing. And I added some reverb to glue it in with the rest of the mix. Cool. So that was the bass line. You can see that in the second part of the drop, when the piano comes back in, the bass line changes. That is when I made the switch between the static bass line, which was playing A sharp, which then moves on to following the progression of the piano sample. And in this case, I just intuitively went for whatever notes sounded the best to me, but it's important to just know whatever notes you can use in a scale like A sharp minor. From then on, I added the notes which sounded best in combination with the piano melody. So now we have the main elements of our track, which are the drums, the melodies, and the bass line. What I like to do from this part is getting out of the loop and arranging the track. So let's head on over to the arrangement. You can see that for the arrangement, changes take place after 8 bars. So every 8 bars, there's at least some type of small change, whether that be adding an element or removing an element. You can also see a lot of transitional sounds between those 8 bars. So remember, every 8 bars, we have at least some element that's being removed or added. And to accompany that transition, we also added some transitional sounds. Let me show you an example. This is how the intro starts off. That was our first 8 bars. I have a little tension synth coming in. Our second 8 bars, which is the build up. And now the drop. Let's take this small build-up into perspective. The reason I removed the kick from this part is because I wanted to add tension. I wanted to remove the bass frequencies to add tension. And I do this for 8 bars. You could do it longer if you wanted to extend it, but I just wanted to add a short little build in tension right before the drop hits. I build up the energy in the build part by removing the low frequencies, and I add the low frequencies back in the drop to release the tension that I created in the build up here. And I added some transition sounds here. Bars, another transition sound. After 16 bars of the drop, the second part of the drop is being played. That's when I usually like to add in more high frequencies, such as shakers, so you can add more drums into the second part of the drop, and our melodies over here. Listen how we transition from the first part of the drop into the second part. Cool. I like the way this sounds. And that's basically it for this track. If you like the project file, you can grab it using the link in the description below. Other than that, I wish you all the best. Have fun producing. Stay blessed.